Welcome to Seven Trumpets Prepper. And guys, in this video I'm going to talk about Antarctica, or what I prefer to refer to as the ring around the flat earth. Now, the thing that I'd like to bring up real quickly right here is, as you can see, this says refreshing in 72 seconds. I don't know what the deal is, but I'm just going to fire off right here to begin with. Is first I go to USAP.gov, and whenever you go to view their cameras, this is what I ran into. I'm waiting this out to see if this refreshes in a minute. I'll show you this. But to begin with, we're going to go over the fact that, the world, I've been covering in all these parts that we live on a flat earth, and I'm totally 100% a supporter of that to this day. Now, the one thing that's always the kicker is everybody's like, well, if there is a flat earth, you could fall off the edge of it. Or there's obviously got to be an edge that you go to, and at that point, then you still lose people, and once you tell them there's a dome over us, or a firmament, what I prefer to refer to in it. And it's just a hard pill for people to swallow. But the fact is that once a person can see that Antarctica, and what everyone refers to it as a continent, once you can actually see that it's the outer ring, then everything changes. Now see right here, guys, this shows you it's refreshing. It starts over again. It says that they're experiencing technical difficulties, but as you can see, it just restarts this over again. Now you might say, what does that have to do with anything? Well, I'll show you something really neat. If you go right here to Jeransim, and the link is in the video description below, it says Antarctica is not a continent, and he gets into Tiger Dan. I'm not even getting into Tiger Dan anymore. Ain't nobody got time for that. That's for a whole nother video another day. But what I do want to cover is that Jeransim actually covers something. Actually, he covers a lot of content in this. Some stuff I'm not even going to touch because I recommend you watching this video. But he gets into the webcam feed down there, and as you can see right here,
night.
If you watch this, it'll show the shadow, and you can see the shadows going, but it doesn't go all the way around.
And those people can tell us what they see.
Right there's a good example. You can see the sun moving around. Let me actually turn Jaren down for a second. You can go watch this whole video through. But anyway, the sun doesn't make a complete dial around this. Now you might say, well, that's not much of nothing. Well, when you look at the flat earth, right here, when the sun's going around, if it was a continent like all the other continents, then you're going to have that full circle effect on that flag. But the way that the sun moves around on the flat plane that we live upon, that's causing that effect. Now also, when the sun moves up, you're going to have those periods of darkness because you're too far away from the outer edge, and then obviously when it moves closer, you're going to have a lot more light there. That's a whole nother topic for another time. What needs to be understood is this, is that when you research the people that have actually went there, I don't care about what everybody's thoughts and opinions is. I want to know from the people that have actually been there, seen it, done it, got the t-shirt. One person that nobody really talks about that is one of my biggest resources I go to for what's going on at the edge of the earth is Admiral Byrd. Now, Admiral Byrd had an interview following his adventure down to Antarctica. He discussed a lot of things. He discussed how that the area down there was places that were unexplored. Places large as North America. That's a huge chunk of land mass deep within before you get to the edge. And that's something that people don't take into account, because right here, I look back in the days of Nimrod when he tried to build a tower into the heavens, just touching on some biblical stuff for just a moment, is that before the world was flooded, can you imagine even at that point that how hard it was for people to probably march to the edge, and then there's this huge wall that I can imagine was only even taller at that point in time. And then obviously, in the days of Nimrod and them, I'm certain that the fallen angels told them that there was an edge to the earth. I'm sure they knew that, obviously, why that he built a tower in a valley to reach into the heavens. Pure act of defiance right there. And, as you look at these explorers, what they say, just going back to that, whether it's ancient times, you just look and see the maps and things that people draw. You go to explorers that went there and you arrive at Admiral Byrd to begin with on my journey. And then I'm going to backtrack a little. This guy, whenever he came back, he had so much to say about what is beyond the edge. And one of the things that was covered on Mr. Thrive and Survive, he actually brought this out this first of the year, that is on the pagan calendar, not on the Creator's calendar. But anyway, he pointed out that if you look on Google Maps, on the Google Earth, you have the longitude, latitude lines. There is like a huge variance in just a short distance on the global model. Now, if you go from where that Admiral Byrd spoke of going down beyond the South Pole, some things that you run into is that there should be this huge area that Admiral Byrd spoke of, but yet on the global model, you end up with only a small spot. And what's wrong with that is that you're hashing off, and I'll draw you a line here, and maybe this will make more sense. And once you see Mr. Thrive and Survive's video, it'll also make a lot more sense. If you draw from Middle America down, and you hash that off on the global model, it's only going to give you that little circle as far as the longitude and latitude goes. But if you hash this out on a large plane that we live upon, then it makes a lot of sense, because you can take that chunk of America and put right there. And obviously, we're just talking at the moment about this area right here that's unexplored. Imagine all of this disk that is not explored right now, that's the outer edge. I can only imagine how far it is to actually touch the firmament, for that matter. Now, with these thoughts in mind, there's some writings that was, you can research this out. Captain Cook in 1773 became the first modern explorer known to have breached the Antarctic Circle and reached the ice barrier. During 3 voyages lasting 3 years and 8 days, Captain Cook and crew sailed a total of 60,000 miles along the Antarctic coastline, never once finding an inlet or path through or beyond the massive glacial wall. Captain Cook wrote, the ice extended east and west far beyond the reach of our sight, while the southern half of the horizon was illuminated by rays of light which were reflected from the ice to a considerable height. It was indeed my opinion that this ice extends quite to the pole, or perhaps joins some land to which has been fixed since creation. Now, you go on down, on October 5th, 1839, and I'm put the links to all this information where I found this stuff, research this in the video description below, and this is just a small chunk of truth, guys. In 1839, another explorer, James Clark Ross, began a series of Antarctic voyages lasting a total of 4 years and 5 months. Ross and his crew sailed 2 heavily armored warships thousands of miles, losing many men from hurricanes and icebergs, looking for an entry point beyond the southern glacial wall. Upon first confronting the massive barriers, Captain Ross rode to the wall extending from its eastern extreme point as far as the eye could discern to the eastward. It presented an extraordinary appearance, gradually increasing in height as we got nearer to it, and proving at length to be a perpendicular cliff of ice between 150 feet and 200 feet above the level of the sea, perfectly flat and level at the top, without any fissures or promontories on its even seaward face. We might, with equal chance of success, try to sail through the cliffs of Dover as to penetrate such a mass. Now, going on down, though, it says, yes, but we can circumnavigate the south easily enough is often said by those who don't know. The British ship Challenger recently completed the circuit of the southern region, indirectly to be sure, but she was 3 years about it and traversed nearly 69,000 miles, a stretch long enough to have taken her 6 times around on the global hypothesis. Now, that's William Carpenter quoted that. That's from his book, 100 Proofs the Earth is Not a Globe. You can actually get you can find some copies of that out there. I actually think there's a reprint on Amazon. But anyway, so all these people that say that Antarctica is a continent, it's taken people that have actually explored this world 60,000 miles plus to get around it. So, somebody take me to school on this, because I'm lost at this point. 60,000 miles would cover this on a flat plane. But 60,000 miles, sorry, I don't have a globe here at the moment. Let me get back over to here. Oh, look, we're still reloading. 60,000 miles won't cover that. Or it will. I mean, you can go around that 3 times probably. Very easily. But, there's a big issue there when you start looking at all these explorers, what they've said, and their hard facts is this is what they circumnavigated. Okay, this is what they dealt with all the way around on their adventures. And so that leads one to the situation where they have to accept that the world is not as it is projected, and this alone is an issue that heliocentric global Earth, for that matter, cannot give you a clear answer for. Now, the flat Earth can absorb this issue because it is enough distance to cover that very, very easily. I mean, that when you plug 60,000 miles in, that puts you about where the azimuthal equidistant map is. Now, granted, there is some issues with it. I won't get behind it saying it's perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll dare say anybody will ever be able to produce a map that will give the height, the depth, and the width of Master Yahweh's creation. I think that's something that'll be found out in the New Kingdom, if even found out then. Now, one other thing I'd like to point out in discussing Antarctica is if you go to openflights.org, I pulled this image up right here on Google to demonstrate to you something really quick, and you can get a deeper look at it on their website, is there's no flights that go over Antarctica. If you notice that all those flights go from one point to another on the flat Earth the shortest distance possible. It's pretty interesting and intriguing, to say the least. But like you take, for example, Australia down there, take the southern tip of South America, Africa, look at all these farthest points out that would be on a flat Earth disk, on the plane that we live up on, and as you can see right there, none of those points cross over Antarctica to go over to South Africa, or a flight from South Africa to Australia, or so on. They go back up to the shortest distance point and on. And I will go even further to say that I would call bull on some of these flights that are actually on there, because some of those flights don't actually follow those trails, even though they even depict that. The flights that are in South America, southern tip of Africa, and some of those flights out of Australia, I would be far fetched to believe that some of those actually run the courses that they have indicated. But nevertheless, that's not the topic of discussion at the moment. Actually, the topic is whether it goes across Antarctica, and as we can see, the answer to that is no. We are surrounded by a ring of ice that's holding the water in under the firmament, and the extension of that ice going out, I imagine, is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles. And so anyway, that is something I also just wanted to point out, because I've heard the argument that flights go over Antarctica, and I would say that that is absolutely a lie. I've yet to this day to find one that does so. There is one last thing that I would like to share with you. There is a website, it's actually on blogspot.com. Somebody took the time to actually invert the points from Antarctica, as far as the stations and things like that. Now, I don't exactly agree with their whole Earth pond thing, and that there's other Earth ponds out there. I mean, that's getting into some other flat earthers that I just can't follow along with. But what I will say, as far as the creation, and as far as the flat Earth under the dome, under the firmament that the Scripture describes, is what I found interesting is that this person's research, they found that this is roughly 60,000 miles. And I find that very interesting. And further along, you can go over all the research study and everything, but it just goes to show you that once you plug all these things in, multiple ways, multiple references, and multiple explorers, what you end up with is you end up with too much exploration. And what I mean by that is this little chunk that's so-called a continent, by the time people have went the distance around, okay, you could have covered the trip around this thing. A man could have sailed around this thing multiple times by the time that he actually did sail around it, because 60,000 miles is a huge chunk of change, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, huge chunk of change. And the adjustments that constantly had to be made by explorers, and furthermore is just the clear words that Admiral Byrd said about that, this huge chunk of land unexplored by man beyond the South Pole. If you go beyond the South Pole, on Antarctica, the one that's actually on the global model, well, you're just going to pop out the other side, and this thing's supposedly been explored all over. So just a lot to take in for one that has not looked into the flat Earth. From a scriptural perspective, just the scientific perspective, Antarctica for me, the one thing that kicked it for me is the distance marker overall. It's because I just looked at what all the explorers plugged in, and then looked at the land mass as it is, and it fails miserably. And one of the greatest things, one of the greatest presentations I've seen yet on it, and falls right into perspective from how I feel about the situation, is this recent video that Jeransim done about Antarctica. I actually think that I will give a nod to Tiger Dan on this. I think that him going completely flip-flop has been one of the greatest kickstarters to get the flat Earth going again, because when he couldn't get Australia to work out on the map, and then the whole Antarctica issue come up. It's funny that I mentioned the last video I was made that I would eventually get around this, and I'm finally home from my travels and have done so, that all this other information's popping up too, that you just can't refute this stuff, and you be beating your head against the wall when you do. And the fact that when you look at these cameras, whenever they will let you look at them, because they're constantly covering their tracks, guys. But thankfully, when the research that's been done by other great flat earthers, when you see this information put out there, and you check it out and you do your due diligence, and you see this great light set in the heavens by Master Yahweh going around, and it's not going over, it's going around its circuit, and this is obviously the outer edge of the earth. It puts things in perspective for you. So, that's one more video of the flat earth under the firmament from a scientific perspective. I think one more video as far as this goes on the science side I'm going to do, and I'll wrap that up on a few last points, and then we're going to get into an actual scriptural journey through the flat earth, and I am very much excited about that. So, guys, until we see you again here, Seven Trumpets Prepper channel, as always, make sure to check these links out that I put in the video description below, and I hope you have a most blessed day in Yahushua name.